going on, everyone? So the Miami Heat were in a very interesting situation as far as this season goes, right? You can never count Miami out, right? They were a play-in team last year. All of a sudden, they're in the NBA Finals. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing. Dude is absolutely incredible. But Miami, the last thing they want to do is be a team that is in the play-in, once again, fighting and having to go through that grind to get to an NBA Finals and potentially win an NBA championship. They also could have really used some scoring help. Miami so far, at the time of recording this video, are the 6th seed at 24-19. They were on a 3-game losing streak, but they're only half a game ahead of the Indiana Pacers from being in the play-in as the 7th seed. They are a game and a half ahead of the Orlando Magic from being the 8th seed in the play-in. Again, not something that the Miami Heat want any part of. Right? They don't want to be in the play-in and have to climb and grind. And Miami, they've been looking for another complementary piece, a guy that can kind of be an upgrade at the point guard spot, somebody that can provide some offensive firepower for them. Obviously, they thought they were getting Damian Lillard in the offseason, and that ultimately fell through. He ended up going to the Milwaukee Bucks, and Miami's kind of just been patient, waiting to try to find that right piece. Well, Miami ended up making a deal and trading for Terry Rozier yesterday. I'm sure many of you are familiar by now. If you're not, just to summarize, the Miami Heat traded for Terry Rozier from the Charlotte Hornets for a Kyle Lowry and a protected first-round pick that becomes unprotected in 2028 if it's not conveyed in 2027. So they got, in my opinion, a very good deal for Terry Rozier. Expiring contract, and a lottery-protected draft pick. It's not too bad for a guy in Terry Rozier who's having an excellent season. Still only 29 years old, so he's on the right side of 30. He is a bit undersized, and there are questions about him defensively. I don't think he's as bad as he's been in Charlotte. He's had some pretty solid years defensively, but look, Miami, they have Jimmy, Bam, and other pieces that are excellent at doing the dirty work, excellent at just locking down opposing opponents. And also you have a head coach in Erik Spoelstra who is really good at putting guys in position and even masking guys on the defensive side of things. Terry Rozier, I fully expect to be able to fit in perfectly. Scary Terry, he is a guy that I think should fit the Miami culture, is a guy that I think will just blend right in and be somebody that could be really useful for the Miami Heat. Somebody that can just go get buckets and score at will for them. They needed somebody like that. And Scary Terry is a guy, he can go off for 50. And again, they could have used somebody like that, take pressure off of Jimmy Butler as well as Bam Adebayo. And Scary Terry is having himself a year. He's averaging 23 points, 6.6 assists, 4 rebounds, 1.1 steals, and half a block. He's shooting 84.5% from the foul line. He's shooting 53.5% from the field. And this is a guy that also is shooting decent from three-point range. He's had years in which he shot 40%, 39%. He's shooting 36% this year. But where he's kind of one of the main focuses on Charlotte, him being able to play off ball and have other guys that kind of distract in a Jimmy Butler as well as a Bam Adebayo, I do think he can actually improve in that regard. I'm curious to see how his scoring maintains, right? Does Miami look at him and go, okay, what you're doing for Charlotte, we want you to do the exact thing here, right? Be a scorer, you got the green light, go. Take your shots, do your thing, and provide a real offensive scoring punch for us. I think if that's the case, I think he'd come right in and just continue where he's been. Now, there is always the questions of that sort of filling out period, as well as you get to a new team. You don't want to be overly aggressive. You want to kind of, play your role, play your part. But I hope that Bam and Jimmy, Erik Spoelstra, and the others kind of just tell him hey, we brought you here to be that guy. We brought you here to be Scary Terry. Go be Scary Terry. We need you to be him. We don't need you to be some, complimentary role guy. No, we need you to go be a guy that can just go get us some buckets. Right? And I fully believe that Terry Rozier can be that. But real quick, we'll dive into Terry Rozier a little more and highlight some stuff. From the Kyle Lowry side, right? Lowry is not the guy that he once was. Now, Charlotte has intentions of trying to trade him. I don't necessarily see how that happens. I don't necessarily see a team taking him on, where Charlotte is trying to essentially rebuild and trade everybody, except for Miller and Ball. Those are two guys that they want to keep. Everyone else is basically up for grabs if you wanted them. Usually, if it's like, hey, we want a Kyle Lowry, it's usually like, oh, we want to unload these bad salaries. So here are these bad salaries. Give us Kyle Lowry. Maybe that's something that the Charlotte Hornets could do if they're hitting the reset button. Maybe take on some long-term contracts, some long-term salary, and maybe get like some picks, whether they're seconds or a late first or something like that, to take on some like bad contracts that somebody wants to get out of. But more likely than not, my guess is that Kyle Lowry ends up getting bought out. And I do think in a backup role, right? I do think that Kyle Lowry can be valuable for a contending team. If you're looking for him to be a real crazy impact guy and play significant heavy minutes or anything like that, then I think you're going to be very disappointed. But if you're a team that's like, hey, we could use a secondary playmaker off the bench, somebody with some experience, someone with some veteran leadership, somebody that's won an NBA championship, was a starting point guard in that spot, I think he can provide some real value, right? This season, he's playing around 28 minutes. If you could get that to like 15 to 20, I do think he can be very productive for you. And he always has those games or those nights where, he just has it going, right? And he can have an impact on any given night. But to me, he's a guy that, at a vet minimum would be a low risk, high reward type deal if he was to be bought out. This season, he's averaging 8 points, 4 assists, 1.1 steals, half a block, 3.5 rebounds. He is shooting 50% from 2-point range and 38.5% from 3-point range on 4.4 attempts. So he's a guy, again, bring him in, minimal role, have him as a backup, have him as just like a piece to that, hey, we need some playmaking off the bench. We need somebody that we can trust in key moments, maybe even just be a quality locker room guy that can provide a role. I think he is somebody that many contenders would jump on if he was bought out, right? Because now you're talking event minimum. But as far as trades go, I don't really see it, but you never know, right? Again, I'm sure that there are several teams out there that have long-term salaries that they would love to get off of, and this could be a way to do that. Even facilitating a 3-team deal, right? Kyle Lowry being an expiring contract. You got a team like the Lakers and the Hawks that are trying to find a third team to help facilitate a DeJounte Murray trade. Maybe they can get involved in that. Maybe pick up a couple seconds or something. Anything is better than nothing, right? If you get a second or two for just kind of being in the middleman, and that's better than, hey, we just lost or we just bought out Kyle Lowry for no reason, right? Just something to keep in mind. But diving back into Scary Terry Rozier, I genuinely like this pickup for Miami. Now, I thought that they would wait and kind of go for the bigger deal, right? Like Donovan Mitchell gets available in the offseason. I don't think he's going to happen this season, but in the offseason, hey, maybe he becomes available. Now look, the Miami Heat could still go and end up trading for a guy like that if they wanted to. Scary Terry could play the point. He could play the 2. You could even have him come off the bench in a backup role if you wanted to. Like, let's say you went and got Donovan Mitchell. You could have Terry Rozier as your 6th man if you wanted to, because he's still under contract for a couple years. They got guys like Duncan Robinson, in which they could kind of use to stack some guys to go give that. Tyler Hero even, right? So they're definitely not out of play for a bigger name, but they're one less first from getting a bigger name. However, I do like the move for them as far as Terry Rozier goes, because I just think Terry's a guy, you know what you're going to get from him. He's hardworking. He provides it every night. He brings it every night. He's got that dog in him. I think he's going to fit the culture. He's going to fit the role, right? I think if Miami just kind of lets him go, hey, leash is off, do your thing, man. Don't worry about it, right? I can see Bam talking to him like, hey, go, if you want to average 30, go average 30. Because they need it. They need the scoring punch. They need somebody that can create their own shots and create their own buckets with relatively ease. And Terry Rozier is a legit 3-level scorer type of guy. You know, he's not Devin Booker or anything like that, but he is very good. And when he's on, the guy is on. But they need somebody that doesn't need setup. They need somebody that can just basically at will apply rim pressure or shoot over the top or, pull up and knock down a three. Just generate offense rather easy. Right? Miami, their offense gets very stagnant at times. Their offense can be very lackluster at times. And just to have a guy like a Rozier, I think it's going to do wonders for their team. Right? How much better does Terry Rozier make Miami? That, to me, is yet to be seen. Right? Like, does Terry Rozier make them better than the Knicks or the Cavs or the Sixers or the Bucks or the Celtics? I think if Rozier can continue to play the way that he's been playing with Charlotte, and he can maintain that like 23-6 range, then I do think just because Miami's experience, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, Bam Adebayo, all of those things, their depth, their talent, I do think, and I would put them over the Knicks and the Cavs. The Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics is the question, right? Sixers, look, Joel Embiid, he's an absolute monster. But he is known to disappear in the playoffs. So, if he's lackluster in the playoffs in a series against Miami, then yes, I think Miami can beat them. But just let's say Embiid is the guy that MVP Embiid, and he's playing the way he's playing this year, I think I'd go with the Sixers. The Bucks, they kind of are all over the place, right? Like, Doc Rivers is supposedly heading to the Bucks, but now they're saying like there's conflicting reports. Now, obviously, that could change. Again, this is at the time recording this video, depending on when you're watching it. Maybe he's already the head coach for the Bucks. But even then, I think they'll get it worked out. I think they'll have it flushed out, headed into the playoffs. So, to me, Miami, I think you could put in like the fourth best team if Terry Rozier works out the way that I think he will. Then I think that they are in that Cavs-Knicks conversation, right? Which, you can make an argument they already are, but I just think that this takes them up a step further. Because Rozier is an excellent player, but he's not a superstar. He's not, some guy that's just going to completely change the landscape for Miami. Like, he's not a Donovan Mitchell. He's not a Damian Lillard. He's like, if they're A tier, to me, Rozier is like a B tier type guy. But hey, that's kind of Miami, right? Like, they're really good at kind of maximizing guys. So look, no one would be surprised if Miami is in the NBA Finals again, or even wins the NBA Finals. They're there like every other year. So you never count Miami out at all, right? But I think if without the whole like, oh yeah, you never count them out. I just think if you look at the roster, you look at what Rozier can provide, you look at all the ins and outs. I still don't think that they're better than the top three in the East. But you never know. Again, every team. The Celtics have a ton of concerns. The Bucks have a ton of concerns. The Sixers, ton of concerns, right? So you get the right matchup, and look, Miami's going to show up in those series. Miami's going to play their game. You can count on Miami. So I'm excited for this. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you love this move? Do you think it's just okay? Do you think this makes them one of the top teams in the league to be a contender? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.